Hello. So in this video, I want to talk about making derivations easier. So to do derivations, you need to know the inference rules and the boxing and canceling methods, and when you can make assumptions and so on. And you also need to know the basic format for setting up a derivation. Show the conclusion, make an assumption if you can, enter the premises, apply your inference rules, and finally box and cancel. But that apply inference rules part can get tricky, and also we want to think about boxing and canceling. And so I want to talk about how to make those parts of the derivation a little bit easier. The first piece of advice actually doesn't have to do with inference rules or what have you at all. It's just a general attitude, which is keep calm and carry on. Derivations can be frustrating. You think, oh, well, there it was. He did it in the video, and it made all perfect sense, and now here I am, and it won't work. And that can be really frustrating. But you want to understand that there's a difference between evaluating a derivation and creating a derivation. And creating a derivation really is, as much as it may sound funny to say, a creative activity. And the way in which we learn how to do that creation is we learn what to pay attention to, what to ask questions about. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about in this video. So you want to be looking wisely. And you want to be looking in terms of how can I use my inference rules? How can I use my boxing and canceling methods? How can I use them to complete the derivation? And there's nothing magic about this. It's just a matter of learning which features of the derivations to pay attention to, what questions to ask yourself about the derivation. And that's what I'm going to talk about again in this video. It's just a matter of being carefully and intentionally in a directed way looking at the derivation. The two main questions you want to be asking yourself, and I'll be saying more about these as the video proceeds, are how can I use my conditionals with modus ponens and or modus tollens, and how can I box and cancel? Because boxing and canceling is always our goal, right? That's how we complete the derivation. So let's talk a little bit about modus ponens. So sometimes in a derivation, let's say you have these three lines, things proceed fairly smoothly. You see, aha, I can apply modus ponens to 3 and 4 and I'll get Q. And you get a new line. And then what do? Well, you have to use the new line. And how are you going to use it? Well, you're going to use it by comparing it with your old lines. Probably things get more complicated, maybe not, but for right now you're going to use your new line in conjunction with some of the old lines, hopefully. So you have to compare your new line with your old line and see, well, how do they interact? And you can see, aha, 5, one of my old lines, is if Q then R, and for modus ponens I need the antecedent, and my new line is the antecedent, so I can apply modus ponens directly to an old line, line 5, and my new line, line 6. And that's very nice. My new line, line 6, interacts immediately with the old line. All I need to do, I get the new line, and I immediately can apply modus ponens to my new line and one of my old lines. But so you need to be asking yourself, how can I use my old line together with my old lines? Always. You get the new line, then try to use it in conjunction with your old lines. Sometimes things are more complicated. So how about this derivation? So you have similar derivation. You think, aha, these are my lines. I can apply modus ponens to lines 3 and 4, and I will get not Q. And there's your new line. But unfortunately, not Q doesn't interact immediately with any of your old lines. It doesn't interact with 3. You got it from 3, good, but you can't get anything more out of 3 with 6. And with 5, you can't apply modus ponens to 5 and 6 because 6 is not the antecedent of 5. So 6 by itself, you can't make it immediately interact with your old lines. So you're asking yourself, I got my new line. Can I make it interact with my old lines? Not immediately. So then, in this case, you say, but aha, I can turn not Q into Q with double negation, and then I can apply modus ponens with 5 and 7, and I will get a new line from my old lines. So 5 and 7, it's the old line is 5 and the new line is 7. And so in this case, there's an intermediate step. So you get your new line, then can I use it with my old lines? I can't. But maybe I can change it into something else that will then interact with my old lines. And so that's the sort of the next sort of evolution, and you've been doing this already in coming up with derivations. So you ask myself, can my new line and my old lines interact, yes or no? If the answer is no, then the next question is, okay, can I do anything to my new line or my old lines to change it so that then there will be an interaction and I can apply modus ponens or modus tollens? So we need to do this intermediate step stuff. The new lines by themselves won't let us do modus ponens or modus tollens with the old lines, so we need an intermediate step. And you transform the new lines into an even newer sentence, and then you can use the even newer sentence with your old conditionals or your old lines. So, good questions to ask then. First of all, what do I need for DD and CD? That's your target. That's helpful. If you watch the derivation examples video for this unit, you'll see me frequently asking that question. It's really helpful to know where you're going. And in particular, when you're doing CD, your goal is to get the consequent of the conditional, and so you actually need to think about that because it's not actually written out anywhere. Oh, here's my target. Then you need to ask yourself, well, what do I need for modus ponens and modus tollens with the conditionals I've already got? And when you get new lines, then you need to ask, how do they interact with my old lines? Do they interact immediately? Can I immediately apply modus tollens or modus ponens to my new line and some of my old lines? Or do I need to do this intermediate line thing, where I do some manipulation to my old lines or new lines before I then get to apply modus ponens or modus tollens? So it's really helpful to write down the answers to these questions. It will help. If you're feeling panicked, it will help calm you down, and it takes the stress off of our brains. Our brains are super, super, super powerful. They're the most complicated objects probably in the universe, certainly on the planet. But the conscious part, where we actually, what we're aware of, where we make efforts to reason, is actually like a tiny part of the brain. And we can't do a whole lot with it. And we want to make it easy for that part of our brain. And we can help that part of our brain by writing things down. It takes the load off of the brain and it puts the load on the paper. And the paper can carry that load very nicely. So you want to ask yourself these questions, and if you write them down, the answers to these questions while you're working on a derivation, particularly one you're getting stuck with, then I think you'll find that the answers to these questions will be really helpful. You go, oh, okay, well that's what I need. And can I get that? Oh, I can here. And your derivation will go forward. So, if you watch the derivation examples videos in this unit, you'll see me asking these questions and calling attention to the fact that I'm asking these questions, and I think you'll find that very helpful. So good luck with your derivations.